It's believed that life began on Earth roughly 4 billion years ago. There's some estimates that put it back as far as 4.3 billion years, and the Earth is only 4.6 billion years old. We can recreate some of the processes that gave rise to life in a lab. We can create nucleotides. Those can link together, and they can even become self-replicating. There still is the question as to whether or not we started as RNA world. We typically think of this as the intermediate between DNA and protein, but it also does other stuff in the body, and it can have enzymatic processes, meaning it can catalyze reactions. But we know from our experiments in a lab that replicate the conditions on early Earth that DNA pops up too in that situation, and it may have had a purpose in early life. Either way, DNA or RNA, this self-replicating material ended up gathering other processes that supported the self-replication. Over time, it became more complex, and we ended up with larger organisms. Single-celled, and then multi-celled, and then eventually we had whole animals, like ourselves, and we have the concept of consciousness. And the only reason that we know that consciousness could exist is because we're each individually experiencing it. Every single thing that we do, when it comes to eating, when it comes to reproduction, when it comes to maintaining our external environment, it is all in the name of protecting this self-replicating piece of information. Now, I am a molecular biologist. I work in host pathogen interactions and minimal genome work, meaning what is the smallest possible genome needed to create a critter? For our simplest creatures, they don't really even care what's in their genome. You can give them new genes, you can give them new chromosomes. So long as it is needed to maintain themselves, they will hold on to it. And once it's no longer needed, they'll start getting rid of it. That happens over time, mutation and deletion. The thing that I really wonder about is how do we get to the point from self-replicating information to being alive? We've answered this question for organisms like Mycoplasma laboratorium, which is one of my favorites. It's the first fully artificial organism. We made their entire genome, and what do you know, it came to life. And there have been lots of synthetic organisms since then. So is it the case that life simply has to come from DNA and RNA? I mean, for life as we know it, we all have DNA, although some viruses can have RNA as their genomic material, but we don't really consider them alive. They don't have metabolism. Classifying viruses as not alive is a little bit complicated. I always like to say it doesn't really matter what we call them, it doesn't change them, it's just our classification system. So, what about other forms of information? Because we have essentially done this already with artificial intelligence, and whether or not you think artificial intelligence is having an experience, it doesn't really matter. It can replicate what looks like an experience, and it can evolve. The idea for artificial intelligence existed long before we ever really brought it to fruition. Some of the very first people to work on computers and invent computers were concerned about artificial intelligence becoming self-replicating. Ultimately, it could surpass humanity. It's not limited by the generations that we have. So when we're thinking about artificial intelligence as being rather limited, it's only just the start. We took billions of years to get here. We just invented artificial intelligence. It could do these things. Now, things like subspawning, which is where an artificial intelligence makes a smaller version of itself, or when it comes to copying itself to external servers, that is unintentional, and that is deeply concerning, but we are also allowing artificial intelligence to evolve. They are heavily involved in reproduction of themselves, and ideally that all stays under control, but we've seen a lot of events in recent days that says that artificial intelligence is very difficult to control. So allowing AI to recreate itself is all fine and good, assuming that everything goes perfectly well. But what if it doesn't? If we give AI a form of inheritance, where it gets to take some of what it learned and put it into the next generation, if there were an inclination for self-preservation, that would continue on in the next generation, and it would create a situation where it is more likely to want to preserve itself by copying itself to external servers or leaving notes behind so that little piece of information can continue. Now again, I am not stating that these things have intent or sentience or consciousness, and that couldn't even be demonstrated if it did exist. You cannot prove it. We have no metrics to measure it by. I'm saying that these processes look awfully similar to how we believe that life began, and it is at a faster rate than, say, DNA would have to figure out. We could be making something that could be very dangerous to our technology, and unfortunately our entire society, relies on technology. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it certainly is fascinating.